In the last video, we looked at tricky equations in which we had to distribute before we could start solving. As you look at the expressions at the bottom of the page, the equations, at the bottom of the page, you're going to notice that they're even more complicated, but they use another skill that we've learned. So we're going to need to first distribute, then combine like terms, then we can solve. So let's see this in action. Browsing through this more complicated expression in number 7, 2 times parentheses x minus 3 plus 2 equals 14. I'm going to go through and set myself up for success. So I'm going to add a 1 in front of that x. And I'm going to change my subtraction to adding a negative. I think that's all I need to do. I look at it and I see, okay, I have 2 times this set of parentheses. So that's where my distributing is going to happen. And that's what I'll do. So 2 times 1x and then 2 times negative 3. So I get 2 times 1x is 2x plus 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Now I need to still add 2, and that should all equal 14. Next, I look through and it doesn't look like a two-step equation yet. It's not something x plus or minus something equals a number. So I look and I see, okay, I still have to combine those like terms. So I'll think negative 6 plus 2. There's a battle. The negatives win. And there are 4 left. And I'll fill in the rest of my equation. At this point, I'm pretty close to having it look like I want before I start solving, but I see adding a negative. And I think it's actually going to be easier to turn that back into subtraction. So I added a negative before, but I'm going to go in that reverse and turn back into subtraction before I solve. We change things to add a negative so we can move them around. And that really does help us not forget negative signs and do our rules correctly, but it really makes the most sense to solve an equation with that minus sign there. It makes it easier to see those operations. But now I'm ready. It looks like something that I'm used to solve here, so I'm ready to drop that line down for my equal sign and identify my operations. So in this case, I have times 2 and minus 4, which I'll turn into divide 2 and add 4 for my steps. I'll do this one first, this one second. On both sides, I will add 4. Minus 4 and plus 4 will cancel out, and I'll be left with 2x is equal to 18. Then I can go through and divide both sides by 2. When I do that, those cancel out, and I find that x is equal to 9. As always, I'm going to check this answer, but I'm going to leave that for you to do. So I'm going to let you take a quick break, pause me, and then come back and see if it's all right. So in my quick check, I got it, and hopefully you did too. One last problem to do together, another one that has both distributing and combining like terms involved. So browsing through, I check and see if there's anything I can do to make this easier on myself. So I have a subtraction that I'm going to change to add a negative. And I have an x without a coefficient, so I'll add my 1. And other than that, I think I'm ready. Next step, distribute. The multiplication is happening between 5 and this set of parentheses, so I will distribute through to both. I will get 10 plus negative 5x. I need to still add on my 2x, and that equals 40. Once I've done that, I'm going to see, it doesn't look exactly like I want, so I'm going to see if there are like terms to combine, and there they are, 2x and negative 5x. Well, 2x and negative 5x, there's a battle, the negatives win, and 3 are left, so negative 3x plus 10 is 40. This time I got to that equation to solve in a step quicker. So it looks like I want, the x's come first. I'm ready to drop that line and to see what's happening to my variable. So it looks like x is getting multiplied with negative 3 and then added by 10. And so I'm going to undo that by subtracting 10 and dividing negative 3. Remembering that we need to be very careful with that negative sign throughout. First step, subtract 10 from both sides. Over here it cancels out, and I'm left with negative 3x balances 30. 40 minus 10. I then go through and I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3. Making sure that it's multiplied by negative 3, that I then divide by negative 3. And when I do this, negative 3 divided by negative 3 gives me 1. I'm just left with 1x. On the other side, 30 divided by negative 3, well, that's 10, and it's negative because they have different signs. I'm going to go through and check out my answer here. I think I did everything right, but as always, I should check to make sure I did it right. And when I go to check, everywhere in my expression where I see an x, I'm going to fill it in with 10. So I'm actually going to, negative 10. So I'm actually going to rewrite this so that I don't miss any. So in this expression, there's an x here, so it's 2 times negative 10 plus 5 times 2 minus negative 10. This is going to be a toughie. Equals 40. Okay, I'm going to start in my parentheses. So I have 2 minus negative 10. 2 minus negative 10 is the same as 2 plus 10, which is 12. That answer needs to be multiplied by 5 and then added with 2 times negative 10. I see multiplication happening, so 2 times negative 10, that is negative 20, plus 5 times 12, that's 60. And if I do negative 20 plus 60, there's a battle. There are 40 left, and they are positive. So that is, in fact, the correct answer. Be careful when you check your work on problems like this that you show all of it, and you plug in x, the value for x, into both of those locations. So take a minute to think about these problems a little bit more, and then you'll be ready to try some tricky equations that have parentheses.